I need to make love." The whisper floated between them like a fragile prayer, the kind that changes meaning depending on how it's answered. And if you stay with this story until the end, you'll see why kindness, love, and respect can be more powerful than desire alone. So please like this video and subscribe to the channel now if stories about human choices and gentle courage matter to you. The ranch lay quiet under a bruised purple sky, the last light of evening softening the edges of fences and fields. Aaron had finished his rounds early, dust still clinging to his boots, when he heard the voice from the porch. She stood there wrapped in a borrowed sweater, eyes searching, posture guarded yet hopeful. Her name was Claire, a visitor stranded by chance after her car failed miles down the road. He'd offered her a warm meal and a place to rest, nothing more, because respect on the ranch was never transactional. But now the air held a different weight. Claire didn't move closer. She didn't touch him. She simply named a need, and Aaron recognized it for what it was. Not a demand, but a request for closeness, for reassurance that tenderness could exist without cost. He felt compassion rise first, steady and grounding. He had learned long ago that kindness begins with listening. They sat on the porch bench where the wood held the day's warmth, the house behind them breathing with quiet. Claire spoke carefully about long roads and longer nights, about being tired of pretending strength was effortless. Aaron listened without interrupting, offering presence rather than promises. He spoke of the land, of how care here was measured by patience, by knowing when to step forward and when to stay still. When Claire's hand trembled in his, Aaron steadied it gently, making no claims he couldn't keep. Respect, he knew, was love's first language. He told her that intimacy could be many things, that being held didn't require confusion, that safety was not something to bargain for. Her shoulders eased, relief softening her expression. They leaned together not into urgency but into calm. The ranch around them seemed to approve. The low rustle of grass, the distant stamp of a horse, the first stars blinking awake. In that quiet, Aaron felt the weight of choice and welcomed it. Kindness guided by honesty had a way of clarifying the heart. As the night deepened, Claire smiled, a real smile this time, unguarded. She thanked him, not for taking something, but for protecting something. Aaron felt the rightness of that settle within him. Yet even as peace returned, he carried a truth that demanded daylight. His life already had a shape formed by years of shared work, shared laughter, shared trials. He had a wife, Emma, away caring for her mother, a partnership built on respect that neither distance nor time had broken. Love, Aaron believed, was not proven by secrecy but preserved by truth. When Claire rose to head inside, the porch light cast a gentle halo. "I needed kindness," she said softly. "You gave me that?" Aaron nodded, grateful for the clarity. He stayed outside a moment longer, breathing in the night, preparing for the conversations that mattered most. He knew the next step would test whether respect could hold under honesty, whether love could grow stronger when nothing was hidden. And as the stars gathered above the quiet ranch, Aaron chose courage. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. Morning arrived slowly, light spilling across the ranch like a careful apology. Aaron woke early, as he always did, but the quiet felt different, alert, waiting. He brewed coffee and stood at the window, watching steam rise as he gathered the steadiness he'd practiced through the night. Respect demanded action, not delay. Claire was awake too, moving softly in the kitchen, her presence calm and self-contained. They exchanged a polite greeting, the ease between them proof that kindness, when kept honest, leaves no residue of confusion. Aaron told her Emma would be home by afternoon. Claire nodded, grateful for the clarity. There was no tension in it, only understanding. By midday, a familiar truck rolled up the drive, dust curling behind it. Emma stepped out, travel-worn and smiling, strength and gentleness balanced in her stride. Aaron met her halfway, took her bag, and they shared a hug that felt like returning to center. Love, he thought, was recognition without performance. They walked toward the house, talking about ordinary things. The calves, the creek level, the neighbor's new fence, until the right moment presented itself not as perfect, but as honest. At the kitchen table, sunlight pooling over worn wood, Aaron spoke. He told Emma about the storm, the stranded car, the supper shared. He spoke of Claire's request for closeness and the choice he'd made to answer with care and boundaries. He didn't dramatize. He didn't defend. He simply told the truth. Emma listened without interruption, her attention steady. She asked questions that sought understanding, not leverage. How Claire was doing, what Aaron had felt, what had been promised. Aaron answered plainly. When he finished, Emma took a breath and nodded. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "Respect is choosing honesty early." The words settled warmly between them. They agreed to invite Claire to join them for lunch. Not as a test, but as a sign of openness. Claire accepted with relief, grateful for the chance to thank Emma directly. The meal was simple and warm, conversation careful but kind. Boundaries were named gently and honored fully. When Claire spoke of her road and her need for safety, Emma listened with compassion, reminding her that care didn't require secrecy to be sincere. That afternoon, Aaron and Emma walked the fence line together, a ritual that always made room for real talk. They spoke about distance and devotion, about how time apart can blur priorities if left unattended. Emma admitted she'd felt stretched thin, pulled between care for her mother and care for their life. Aaron listened, owning the places he could have checked in better. They agreed to protect their connection with intention. Clear communication, shared plans, space for vulnerability. Romance, Emma said, wasn't urgency, it was attention. Respect made it last. Claire left the next morning with a repaired car and directions towards steadier work. She hugged Emma first, gratitude clean and unconfused, then thanked Aaron for his care. As the dust settled on the road, the ranch felt lighter. Emma slipped her hand into Aaron's, and they stood watching the horizon fade back into quiet. Love hadn't been threatened by truth. It had been clarified. In the days that followed, they rebuilt small rituals with care, coffee on the porch before sunrise, notes left by the sink, a shared walk at dusk to count calves and name what needed fixing. Kindness showed itself in practical ways. Meals cooked, plans made, help offered without keeping score. Respect showed itself in how they spoke, how they listened, how they chose transparency over assumption. The ranch breathed around them, steady and forgiving, a witness to work done honestly and love tended deliberately. The weeks that followed settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and newly deliberate. Aaron and Emma didn't rush to prove anything. They practiced care in the ordinary places where respect quietly lives. Mornings began with shared coffee on the porch, the horizon opening slowly as they spoke about the day ahead. Evenings ended with a walk along the fence line, checking posts and talking through small worries before they had a chance to grow. Kindness showed up as attention, asking before assuming, listening without preparing a defense. Love showed up as choice, choosing patience when tired, choosing warmth when the day had been long. Respect showed up everywhere else, steady as the land beneath their boots. They returned to the community kitchen on Saturdays, sleeves rolled, laughter easy. Serving together reminded them how well they moved as a team, how generosity multiplied when shared. A neighbor mentioned the harvest social, and Emma suggested hosting it at the ranch. Aaron agreed, surprised by how good it felt to open their gates wider rather than close ranks. Planning became another thread of connection, lists on the fridge, friendly debates about music and lanterns, small smiles exchanged when they reached agreement. Romance, they discovered, thrived in collaboration. One afternoon, Aaron found a postcard on the counter, blue ink sketching a coastline, a brief thank you written simply. Claire had found work near the water and felt steadier. Aaron showed it to Emma without hesitation. They pinned it near the window, not as a reminder of temptation, but as a symbol of clarity. Compassion could be offered without confusion. Boundaries could protect everyone involved. Trust, when practiced openly, felt lighter than fear ever had. As summer leaned toward autumn, the ranch buzzed with preparation. Friends arrived early on the day of the social, hauling tables and stringing lights. Children chased one another between hay bales, while elders shared stories beneath the cottonwoods. Emma moved through the crowd with practiced warmth, Aaron at her side, both attentive without being guarded. When music began and lanterns glowed, Aaron felt a deep gratitude settle in. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was honest. Love didn't need secrecy to feel alive, it needed care. Later, When the guests thinned and quiet returned, Aaron and Emma sat on the porch steps, shoulders touching. They spoke about the months ahead, naming hopes and naming fears without letting either take control. Emma said she felt seen, not idealized, not overlooked. Aaron answered that he felt anchored, the way one does when the ground beneath them is firm. Respect, they agreed, wasn't about avoiding mistakes. It was about facing them together. They promised to keep telling the truth early and kindly, to treat vulnerability as shared ground rather than a weakness. Cooler mornings arrived, sharpening the air. Aaron repaired a loose gate, while Emma planned an orchard. Something slow growing, something that would ask patience. They laughed over varieties and spacing, turning the decision into a shared project. On planting day, neighbors returned with shovels and jokes. Dirt-stained jeans, saplings stood in careful rows. Aaron watched Emma press soil around a young tree, her focus tender and exact, and felt the deep contentment of building something meant to last. Love, he realized, was planting with faith in seasons you couldn't rush. Evenings shortened, and with them came reflection. Aaron understood that satisfaction didn't come from being needed in the dark. It came from being chosen in the light. Emma's hand found his more often now, not out of reassurance, but affection. The ranch held their days gently, a witness to work done honestly and love tended deliberately. Standing at the fence one evening, Aaron looked across the fields as dusk softened the world. What began as a quiet test had become a shared strength. Kindness had guided them, respect had steadied them, and love, patient, attentive, and brave, had grown deeper roots. As stars appeared one by one, Aaron knew the final chapter would not be about a single moment, but about continuing to choose each other with clarity, day after day. Under a quiet sky, Aaron and Emma stood side by side, certain of what they had protected. Kindness had guided them, respect had steadied them, and love had grown stronger through honesty. If this story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because stories where love chooses truth are always worth sharing.